Hey everyone, and welcome to my craft room. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Julianne Richards and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in southern Tasmania in Hobart. I'm recording these videos for you just to keep things ticking over while I'm on holidays. So this is actually not a Facebook Live, so it's just pure crafting. Just bear with me while I make sure my sound is up. Yes, it is. So we can start. Today I am featuring this wonderful new Honeybee Stamp Set. It's in the current Stampin' Up mini catalogue, the 2020 mini catalogue, and it's proving to be one of the most popular stamp sets. If you just have to look online and on Pinterest, and you can see lots and lots and lots of examples of people working with this stamp set. It's a really good one in the fact it comes with a matching dies, so you can buy them in a bundle and save 10%. But there's also a wonderful designer series paper, which I will show you very soon, which actually is a free item with Celebration till the 31st of March. So for those of you who don't know how Celebration works, for the period from the 3rd of January to the 31st of March 2020, you, for every purchase of 90 Australian dollars you make, you can choose one Celebration item. So, and as I say, the designer series paper that goes with this bundle is part of that deal. So I'll show you that in a minute. It's a lovely paper with lots of gold and black, which is really nice and really quite appropriate for our little honeybees. Anyway, so as I have been doing with my last couple of videos, I'm actually going to show you 3 cards, and each of the 3 cards is aimed at a different type of crafter. At Stampin' Up we split our crafters into 3 different categories, being beginner, casual and avid. So obviously your beginning stamper is just someone who hasn't made cards before and is just getting to know how to handle the dies and the inks and everything. So the cards are a little bit simpler and easy to produce beautiful results. So what I'm going to do is show you 3 cards. I actually use roughly the same design for each card, but with each, as we go over each level, we actually sort of step it up a little bit and add a bit more from the wonderful Stampin' Up range. Okay, so our beginner card. Basically, I'm just starting with a card base. It's a Whisper White card base. My normal size card base is 8 1/4 inches by 5 3/4, and I've got it scored in the middle just to make a normal A6 or C6 card. So really all I need for this card is some ink. I'm going to be using the Pineapple Punch ink and our Memento black ink, which is fundamentally it. I am also going to use a couple of our blends, but you could use normal textures or watercolour pencils if you want. And these, I'm using the dark Daffodil Delight and the light Daffodil Delight, just for a little bit of colouring in here. Okay, so let's get started. I've already got my blocks all inked up. So I've got the ink. The stamp set has this wonderful little hive image here, which is the one I'm going to use on our card. I'm also going to use these cute little flowers. We've got one that turns left and one that turns right, and a cute little bee. He's very cute, and there is a sentiment that goes sort of like in an arc, and I'm going to be using that as well. So let's get started. Start off first of all with our little flowers. I'm going to do those in black ink. I'm going to pop them along the bottom of my card just so that they form like a little field of flowers. I'm going to sort of vary them up and down so they don't look like the same image, and I'm going to vary between the left one and the right one and see how we go. So I'm just sort of going to, as I say, going off the edge now and then to give it a sort of a different sort of look. As I say to every video, make sure you're stamping on a surface that you don't mind getting a bit inky, because it will happen. just varying the heights of our little flowers all around, just so that they look like they're outstanding in a field. And they sort of can arch over each other and nestle in like that. So that's quite sweet, I think. It's just like a little garden growing at the bottom of our card. The other one I'm going to do is grab the beehive, and I'm going to use our Pineapple Punch ink here, which is a lovely bright yellow. I'm just going to bring that in just above our little field of flowers, so leaving a little bit of room, and pop it as central as you can. Just pop that one down. There we go. So there's our little beehive, slightly off angle there, but that's okay. And then I'm going to bring in the sentiment, and again I'm going to be using our black ink. Now this little dome, this little semicircle sentiment, fits in perfectly just over the top of our beehive. It just sort of runs around the top of that really nicely. Wishing you sunshine and happiness, which sounds lovely. Okay, and then sort of finally I'm going to bring in our little bees. I want to put 4 little bees here. I'm going to put one little guy sort of coming up here, so they're obviously buzzing around the hive, visiting the flowers and making everything wonderful, as bees do, making lots of honey. I'm going to go too far up and go off the edge there, just be a bit careful. Okay, so that's the stamping done. As I said, I'm going to bring in some of the blends, or you can use textures or pencils. I'm just going to bring in the blends. I'm going to colour the little flowers. So just each of the little blooms. This just gives it a little bit of something extra. A little bit of extra colour. There we go. There we are. And I'm also going to colour each of the little stripes on our bees. So just give them their black and yellow stripes, which bees are famous for. And that one is pretty much done. As I said, it's a nice, simple, easy card. Use most of the stamps in the set, which is nice. When I show cards, I always like to make sure people feel they're getting their money's worth and can use most of the stamps in their cards. But he's quite sweet. Not much to him at all. Very good for a beginner, with a little bit of colouring as well. On the inside, we could probably put a sentiment and maybe a bee or something like that. Let's have a little look. I haven't actually worked this out, but let's have a look what we've got. What else have we got? We've got wishing you sunshine and happiness. Celebrate every moment. We've got a really cool big bee here. What I might do is grab him out, pop him on a block. If I can find one. It'll have to be a big block. Pop him on a block. Get him in the black. I might just have him just coming up from the corner. There we are. Just to carry the theme of the bee from inside to outside. Well, outside to inside, and then I'll bring the Thinking of You Sweet Friend, which is the sentiment we're going to use on our other cards. I'll bring that in as well. There we go. So there's the inside stamped as well. There. So hopefully you like that as well. Okay, so that's our beginner card. Very simple, very easy, not much needed to do that one. Hopefully you think that's nice. So we'll actually build off this and get a little bit more involved, a little bit more complicated with our next two. Okay, so the second card we are doing is one I've designed that I think is appropriate for the casual crafter, or basically the someone who likes to have cards on hand, likes them to be quick and easy, and has a little bit more equipment than the beginning crafter. I think I've dropped something on the ground. Have I dropped something on the ground? Maybe not. Sorry about the wobbles. My floor wobbles terribly when I move. Okay, so for this one I'm starting with a pineapple, I think it's pineapple punch. Yeah, a pineapple punch card base, normal size, 8 1/4 by 5 3/4, and I've scored it and folded it in half. Just to bring out the theme of our colours, I've got a panel of basic black, and that's cut 1/4 inch smaller than our card base, so you've got a fairly nice large border of the yellow showing around. And then I've got a panel of Whisper White, which is 1/8 inch smaller again, so you've just got a very small boundary of the black around the edge of that. Okay, so I'm going to start with our panel. So what I've also got, I should mention, is I have already stamped and cut out one of the beehives. So in our pineapple punch stamp, just on a scrap of Whisper White, I stamped our beehive and I've cut it out. So I'm going to pop that up on dimensionals just to give the card a little bit of extra height. And here somewhere, I might have to stamp it again because I've lost it. I had a sentiment, that might be what I've dropped on the floor. Ah, yes it is. Sorry. Excuse me for a second. Where is it? Yes, here it is. Okay. I've got the sentiment as well. So what I've done as well is also on a scrap of Whisper White, I've actually stamped our sentiment, and I've given that, I've sort of cut around that, not in sort of a swirly sort of way, just sticking to the edges of the letters. So it's quite nice. It's quite a popular way of doing them at the moment. You basically just stamp them, and rather than putting them on circles or squares or rectangles, you just cut around the shape of the words and just go with that. So I'm going to use that as well. Okay, so first things first, we're going to get our Whisper White panel. And again, I'm going to do this sort of little garden design that we talked about before, that we did with our first card, with our flowers coming up from the bottom. I'm going to start them a little bit further up. So I've got my ruler here and my pencil, and I'm going to measure up the card. I've got to remind myself now. About 1 1/8 inch up the card, and do a line across. So I measure it just about there. Doesn't have to be exact. And put myself a line. Just the softest pencil line. You're actually going to cover it with some ribbon, so it doesn't matter too much. You could rub it out after if you like, but as I say, we're going to cover it with some ribbon, so that's not too much of a problem. So again, we're going to bring in our little flowers, and again we're going to stamp them all around in varying ways. So to keep this part of the card clean, I'm going to bring in just a scrap of paper, if I can find one. Scraps of paper everywhere, and just line it up with our line there. And then we'll do as we did with our other card. We're just going to randomly put our flowers in at random heights. one more down here. There, so we've got our little garden happening again. Pop those aside. And then we're going to also put a little bee just down in this corner down here where it's just below our line. Just pop him in there. Just one of the small bees. Just there. Okay, so we've got that happening. Alright, so what we might do now is, what's the best way to attack this, she wonders? Okay, so we might pop our beehive in. So this is the beehive that I've cut, stamped and cut out of Whisper White cardstock. He's going to sit in there somewhere, and I want another couple of bees, so I just wanted to position that so I knew where to go. I'm going to have one bee in the top right hand corner. Oh, inky fingers. And another one just slightly lower on the left. Okay, there, that's fine. Okay, so that's all our stamping done. So I just wanted to make sure I put those other bees in the right position. Okay, so what we can do now is layer up with the black. So I'll bring in our black and some glue. I'm going to just put that in there, like that. There we are. And I'm going to attach my ribbon. So I'm going to use a little couple of pieces of tear and tape just on the back, just to attach our ribbon. So they've got with this Honeybee bundle as well, there is a beautiful yellow ribbon. I think it's Daffodil Delight. It's the colour that matches the bundle. So that's a really lovely bright yellow ribbon. So I'm going to pop that on as well. So where I've got my pencil line, I just pop a couple of pieces of tape there, just move the edges. There we go. And then just lining the ribbon up with our line, our pencil line. Just turn it around the edge and stick it on that piece of double-sided tape there. Trying to do it upside down here doesn't help. I'm just going to line it up with my grid paper so I'm getting it perfectly straight. And attach it on the back. So there's our little bit of ribbon there. What I will do as well is get some dimensionals and pop our beehive up on some dimensionals. Some big ones. Forgive that on the back, you can see I had a couple of attempts at it. There's another beehive on the back, but waste not, want none. So just a couple of dimensionals and pop our beehive in place. There we are. I'm going to also bring in our pencils, our blends, and do the colouring as we did with the other one. So this is the dark Daffodil Delight, and again I'll just colour these flowers in. And then I'm going to do the same with our little bees that we did as well. Little bees, so a little guy down here. And his friends up here as well. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to bring our sentiment in. So as I said, I'm going to pop that on the edge of our beehive. So what I'm going to do is on one end of it, on the very, I'm going to use a large one. Just on one end of it, I'm going to pop a dimensional, and then on the other end, I'm going to pop some glue because I want the glue. The glue is going to stick it to the beehive, and the dimensional is going to keep the height consistent all the way because it's not going to be totally on our beehive. So just pop that there. So the glue attaches it to our beehive and the dimensional supports it on the rest of the card. So there we are. Just make sure that's straight. There we are, so that's that. Pretty good so far. Okay, so what I'll do now is actually pop it onto our card base, and I'm going to put it up on dimensionals again, just to give it a bit of extra height. Keep in mind that this is our casual crafter card, so you can, there's a little bit more equipment available, a bit more time, a bit more experience. There we go. Pop that up on there. Now just one last thing to make this one complete is I have tied a bow, and anyone who watches me will be relieved to know that I tied my bow before I came on air, because bows and me don't get along very well, but this one worked out okay. So I'm going to take the little bow and put him just off to the side there on top of the existing little piece of ribbon that we've got, just to give it that little extra interest. I might actually use a glue dot to just keep that ribbon in the right place. Just pop it up under there and then just attach it to the card just so it stays, got a little bit more structure. Okay, so that is our casual crafter card. Got a little bit more happening there. We've got some ribbon, we've cut some things out, we've layered some things. We could pop some, might be nice with some, actually I might do that if I can find some gold. We've got some gold faceted jewels here. These are from the annual catalogue as well, so just to give it a bit more interest I might actually pop those on there. I have terrible trouble not embellishing my cards. Sometimes I'm trying to keep it simple, but it never sort of happens. But this one I think could actually use a bit of something a bit special just to lift it a little bit. So I'll just pop them down here with the flowers, like little water droplets. Decided to stick to my finger. Oh. There we go. There we go. Maybe one more here in the centre, and that just gives it a little bit extra. There we go. Yeah, that's better. We've got a bit of sparkle now. Okay, so that is my casual crafter card. As I say, we've got a little bit more happening there, and now we've got some bling as well, which is very good. Okay, so that's two. That's our beginner card and our casual crafter card. So now we're going to pull out all the stops and do our avid crafter card. So this is like me and like lots of people probably watching, who basically, when you see something, you've got to have the whole bundle, you've got to have the whole set. And yes, but so many beautiful things, it's a bit difficult not to. So the third card I'm going to make, oh, it's gone everywhere, starts with a plain white card base I've got here. So I've cut this one as a sort of portrait card rather than a landscape card. Normally my cards go this way. No, normally they open this way, but this one opens from the top. So just something a little bit different. But I've also got a panel or a layer of, again, we're bringing in our basic black, and this one's got quite a distance between the base card and the first layer. It's actually a good ½ centimetre all around, so it's actually cut an inch smaller than our card base. And I've also got a piece of our beautiful designer series paper. So I bought this one in, it's got some beautiful little familiar little bees. It's got some flowers, and if you can see that sparkle in the sun, it's actually got sort of gold accents to it, which is really, really nice. So I have cut that 1/8 of an inch smaller than our black, and I have already, to save you watching me, already cut out the little beehive from the die set. So I might bring the die set in and show you what we've actually got in the die set. We've obviously got the beehive, which I've just used then to cut out of the designer series paper. We've got a pretty cool honeycomb, which I'll be using for this card as well. This is our little bee, and that cuts him out. This is our big bee, which we used in the second card, on the first card inside, so that he cuts out as well. Here are our 2 flowers we've used a lot, so you can cut those out with there. There's a couple of little love hearts, which are very cute, and this big ornate bee, which sort of stands alone. So he's lovely in foil, in gold foil. He's absolutely glorious. So, as I say, from my designer series paper, I've already cut out the beehive there, just sort of roughly half, maybe a little bit below half the way down. So that's going to layer on top of there. What I've also done is, out of gold foil, I have cut that honeycomb that we were talking about, so that's going to sit up in behind there. And I have 3 or 4, 3 I think, little bees. So I've stamped them in black and cut them out with the Big Shot, with the die cutter. And when you cut out that honeycomb, you actually get all these glorious little hexagons left over. And I'm actually going to use those as well, just to make this one a little bit special. You don't want to waste all this great goldy goodness. Okay, so let's get started. There's not much to this one, as much as I say it's the Avid Crafter. Once you've got everything cut, it's pretty straightforward. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, position my honeycomb on my black so that the hive that I've cut out from my designer series paper covers most of it over. Now, unfortunately, the honeycomb is slightly small, so it doesn't fit exactly in the hive. So I have to position it quite carefully, and then keep in mind which bits that I'm going to cover with a strategic bee once we get to the final, putting the final card together. So position my card, my designer series paper. I'll get rid of that. Position my designer series paper over my black so that we've got the correct border all the way around. And what I'm going to do is position the honeycomb in as much as I can, so it just fits in as well as we can. And then I'm going to remove the designer series paper, and again I'm going to bring in my pencil, just lightly pop some dots, just so I know when it comes time to glue that I'm gluing this in the right spots. But they won't be seen, and you probably can't even see them now, but I can see them, which is the most important thing. So then I'm going to bring in some very light blobs of glue, not a lot. It's very, very fine, so just dots all around. Probably, if you need to concentrate anywhere, it's probably best to concentrate on the outside, just so it doesn't curl up and stays attached. So just tiny dots of glue. There we go. And then I'm going to line those up with the dots that I've popped on my black, if I can see them. Yeah, I can, thankfully. And just sit that down. I'll bring in a piece of paper just to smooth that down a little bit, just so it doesn't stick to my fingers, which it usually will. Okay, cool. Okay, so we know that that's in the right position, so we can now just bring in our designer series paper and just use some glue for that. and down over the top of our honeycomb. Now, as I said, the die for the honeycomb is slightly small, so you can see there are areas here where you can see that the gap is a bit bigger. We're going to cover those with a strategic bee, and that's why we have our 3 little bees here. So before I put them on, I'm going to give them a bit of colour like we did in the previous cards. So I've got my Daffodil Delight here again. Just going to colour in their little abdomens. There we go. And grab some little, oh, they're big. Grab some small mini dimensionals if I can find them. It's a new packet. I don't want to open a new packet. Here we go. Must be here. Yes, there they are. So bring in some mini dimensionals and just pop one on the back of each of our little bees. And pop them onto the hive. So as I say, there's a bit of a gap here, so we may pop a bee just there, so it looks like he's headed indoors, and then another one. So this is a bit of a gap over here, so we might pop another little guy over here, so he's coming in from the other direction. And then our last little guy, I'm going to pop him up the top. So you can see in the designer series paper there are lots of other bees on the actual paper itself. So what I might do is put one little bee up there. Him there. That covers over a bit that hasn't got a proper bee. But I don't want him to cover over this little guy, so I might pop him a bit like that. So there's other bees on our paper, so I might just colour them in as well, just so that they all look like they're all related to each other from the same hive. Just be careful, the ink will spread a little bit on the designer series paper, so don't go right up to the edges if you can avoid it. Probably should have coloured him before I put his bee on top of him, but anyway, here we go. Cool. So that's that. So these little pieces of honeycomb that we've got left over, I'm just going to put tiny little bits of glue on here, everywhere around here, and I'm going to put them in as well. So they're also a good way of sort of hiding the fact that our beehive doesn't go all the way. So I'll just grab, best to use my tool. Use my take a pick tool just to get them in the right place. So we've got one there. So just filling in exactly where they came out of in the big shot. We're just popping them back in again. It has to sort of sneak under the paper a little bit. Take the pick tool, doesn't want to let go of this one. Do this one with my fingers. Frustrating. And it already started to stick. Here we go. Line him up. There we go, gotcha. And then this one up here. And under there. Oh, he's gone too far. There we go, perfect. And then I'm going to pop 3, which is going to be much easier. I'm going to pop 3 just in the centre. So these These are obviously honeycombs that are full of honey, golden honey. There we go. Okay, so that's very nice and very blingy and quite bee-ish. Cool. Okay, so now I might pop that onto our card base here. And then we can do our sentiment. So again, I'm going to use the hello, thinking of you, sweet friend sentiment. There we go. I've got a piece of leftover cardstock here, Whisper White cardstock. Just going to stamp the sentiment on that. There we go, in some black. Thinking of you, sweet friend, which is quite appropriate when you're making a honey card. So I'm going to trim that, and I'm going to give it some bannered ends, but I'm going to use my, if I can find it, I'm going to use my tailored punch to do the banners on the ends. So I don't know if you've seen people use this tailored punch like this. Basically you just slip your slip of card in there and just use one side of the banner. It means you can make a banner of any width and any length, which is tricky with the other banner punches. Okay, so what I'm going to do is pop that somewhere on there. I think probably down here. Could put it up there, I suppose. Which way do I prefer it? There. Yeah, I think I actually prefer it up there. I've left a little bit more too much space up there, so I think I'll cover it with the banner. And I will pop that on dimensionals as well. There we go. And that is our Avid Crafter card. It's got a fair bit happening on that one, even though it looks lovely and simple. So we've got our bees all with our die cuts and on dimensionals. We've got our beautiful golden honeycomb with our honey in there. We've got our sentiment on a banner, and we've got our designer series paper. So hopefully you like that one as well. So that's the 3 cards with the Honeybee stamp set. As I mentioned, we've got 3 different cards for 3 different sorts of stampers or card makers. We've got our beginner card, which is just all stamping and colouring. It's quite cute. We've got our casual crafter with some ribbon and some dimensionals and a bit of layering, which is quite cute as well. And we've got our avid crafter with bling and lots of beautiful designer series paper and everything happening there. So hopefully you like those. As I say, I should be back from holidays fairly soon, so I'll be able to go live again. But in the meantime, if you haven't got a demonstrator and you would like to ask me questions about any of these products that you see in any of my videos, please drop me a message, pop something in the comments, or pop over to my Facebook business page and leave me a message there. Very happy to answer any questions that you may have about Stampin' Up and help you order if you would like to. If you'd like a copy of the latest catalogues, also just pop over and let me know on my business page. And yeah, so have a great day, have a great week, and I will see you next time, probably live from my craft room. Okay, thanks guys.